In fulfilling God's call for your life, don't look at your inadequacy. What God expects from you is obedience, not perfection. There are many people not walking in the fullness of their calling because they are laid back by a lot of what ifs. What if people don't accept me or the message? What if no one believes me? What if no one validates me? Lord, I'm not eloquent enough. Lord, I'm not qualified enough. I want you to know that God did not choose you because of your eloquence. God did not choose you because you were the most gifted. He specializes in using the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 26, it says, for you see your calling, brethren, not many wise according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called. So God is the one that chooses whomever he wants to send to a generation. So stop looking at your inadequacies. God saw those inadequacies before he placed his hand upon your life. There are many people who use excuses as a yardstick for not walking in their calling. You know, they say things like, you know, I'm waiting on God, I'm still birthing the ministry, I'm in the process, or I'm in the season of preparation. No, you're not waiting on God. God is the one waiting on you. We decorate, we use spiritual lexicon to decorate our disobedience in order to make it acceptable before God. You are not waiting on God. God has been the one waiting on you to obey, waiting on you to embrace your calling, waiting on you to go to the people he has sent you to. And let me tell you, you will never feel qualified enough or prepared enough for the assignment God has given you to a generation. I remember the very first time the Lord told me to go and host a public meeting. The very first time I'd been hosting meeting prior to that time, but then we invited guest ministers. The first time God said I should go was to when I hosted Complete Woman Conference in 2017, University of Ilorin. It was the very first time I would go into public ministry. Prior to this time, for almost a year, every week we had met in the residential quarters where I was doing my internship. We had an interns fellowship called the God Seekers, where people gathered every week, almost every week here, and I taught, and a few other folks. So I'd been teaching almost every week for almost a year prior to that time, and God was saying, go and do public ministry for the first time. This was the very first time my picture would be on a flyer. I was so scared. I was like, God, what if no one shows up? God, what if? I had a lot of what ifs. I must have rehearsed my notes more than 1,000 times. And then I remember on that day I was surprised. The number of people that came for that meeting was about 100. Think about 100, yes. And I was surprised. I remember engaging one of them in a conversation. Why did you come? Because most of these people, they've never heard me preach before. And the lady said, when your team came to my room for publicity, I was not around, but when I got back, I saw the flyer on the floor, and the Holy Spirit said, you must be in this meeting. Until today, there are still some people who attended that conference that are part of my core team today. What if I never obeyed God? What if I never stepped out? I want you to know that God is not what God demands or expects from you is obedience, not perfection. A lot of times we are waiting to be perfect before we walk in the fullness of God's call for our lives. You see, no, God is not expecting perfection. We all are in the process of being perfected. So embrace your calling, walk in obedience, step into the fullness of what God has called you to do. A generation is waiting on you to obey. A generation is attached to your obedience. I call you blessed.